Welcome back, everybody. The next session is a fireside with Colorado Securities Commissioner Tung, moderated by Russell Castagnaro, board member of SporkDAO and founder of Unicorn.eth.
Thanks. Hello, ETHDenver.
Aloha.
Aloha, that's right. Aloha. Come on, everybody. We can't even see you out there, so you have to let us know you're there. So I want to say that, as a resident of Colorado and as a previous employee of the state, that I feels really proud to be up here on the stage, that we have the Commissioner of Securities here who has more experience probably in blockchain and Web3 than any other state and many people in the world. You may or may not know that Tung was in the past the general counsel for the Ethereum Foundation. And I just think we are so lucky to have had her since 2019, right?
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing. Now, you're in a really kind of unique position because of your past experience with ICOs and with Ethereum Foundation. And how is actually building and working inside the foundation changed the way that you approach securities? Because you used to be Commissioner of Securities in Hawaii. And it'd be interesting to see how that's changed things.
Well, I think it's changed along with my work in business. So I was a general counsel in the general counsel's office for a number of companies as well. And I think what that really does is it makes you understand that businesses have to run and regulation is an expense line. It's not revenue generating. So each business that's trying to be regulated, especially small businesses, they're trying to get in compliance, but you're not, they're trying to keep the business running. And basically, to keep a business running, you have to have a revenue line. And I think that generally has impacted the way I regulate. That I understand that it's like in a sports contest, like an NFL or something. The regulators are refs. They're really important, but they're not the reason why everyone's there. You guys are the reasons why everyone's there, the business, the commerce. And so it is symbiotic in that way, but I think being part of the business side of it, being inside businesses really makes me think about that a lot. That we're here to ref, but at the same time, we need the business and the commerce to innovate and be successful, because without the business, we wouldn't even be here. So I think that has impacted the way I regulate and the way I think of regulations. In terms of being part of the Ethereum Foundation at the launch of the Genesis block, I think it probably makes me more interested and welcoming of that technology, than folks who didn't have exposure. So I think those two things probably play in the way I regulate.
Great. So it's sort of like the crypto world has been saying, let them play, let them play.
Look, I don't know how many, we're watching the Olympics, we're watching the Super Bowl or whatever sports you might be watching, and people love it, we want to watch it, but it's really no fun if one side gets to break all the rules and the other doesn't, right? And with commerce, it's not about fun. It's just about trying to give some certainty to the marketplace so that it runs efficiently, and that's, it's really important. And I think my experience with both the Ethereum Foundation and working inside pretty successful businesses also creates an overlay of that every time I'm making regulatory decisions.
Well, you mentioned commerce, of course, and I am a payments wonk and e-commerce wonk. There's a lot of confusion around stable coins or any sort of coin that acts like a stable coin. And when are stable coins, or when might be stable coins considered securities and when might they not?
Okay, so we just had the great and good luck of having Commissioner Peirce up here, and I think you've had a lot of folks from the SEC speak. So you probably already know that there's a different regime at the federal level and then the state. So I'm the Colorado Securities Commissioner, and I think really that means that I can talk about what's happening at the state. And I can say generally, with the historical reach of regulation has said historically that a security is something basically that folks might invest in to make a profit. And the reason why we have regulation on that is we want regular people who are investing in something that might make a profit, who are incentivized to put in money to get something more. We want to make sure those people are getting fair disclosure. That means you don't lie, you don't puff so much, you don't misrepresent, you don't omit. So this is a long way of saying, basically, historically, a security has been something where you can get a profit, there's a profit motive for the people who invest. And the stable coin is supposed to be one that does not have that incentive. So a stable coin that is tied one-to-one to fiat, to a dollar or to yen, or to a pound or to euro, means that you could go back and forth between that currency and there's no profit motive that coin's gonna increase in value, so there's no profit motive there. So a stable coin should be stable in the sense that it doesn't offer that kind of investment incentive. That is historically how it's been working. Now, I guess you all probably know that I think in July, the Genius Act was passed, which deals with the regulation of stable coins in more depth. And we will see, as those rules develop and how that statute gets implemented, we'll see what how this all really plays out. But those are the general principles of what a security is and what essentially a stablecoin is. And even before that passage of that legislation, a stablecoin that was just one-to-one fiat with no investment incentive would not have fallen, in my view, under the Howey test as a security. So even before the legislation. But of course, the legislation adds clarity and has nuance, and so we'll see what those rules look like. But I think that is the difference. In your mind, something that has an investment incentive is more likely to be a security, and something that doesn't, one-on-one, less likely and probably not a security.
Great. I know that, like, from a payments implementer and somebody who's using it, what I don't want to have is a 1,000-page addendum to my tax forms because I use stable coins as payments, right?
Right.
We have a lot of founders, biddlers here. They're making wallets, they're loyalty systems, NFTs, tokens, chains. What sort of guidance, and some of the published guidance that's been out there, what should they pay particular attention to when they're developing, so that they don't run afoul of things from the get-go?
Okay, I have two things I want to touch on for this question. The first one is, I would just say, in terms of what's trending in all of fintech, I think the one thing you guys all have to think about is cybersecurity. Whatever you're building, make sure it's got some kind of cybersecurity protection. I think it's so obvious, but I would imagine every serious regulatory scheme is going to be concerned about that. Okay. The second thing that I would recommend, because a lot of what's happening is happening at the SEC federal level, and I'm the state commissioner, I would tell you there's a division in the SEC called Corporation Finance. CorpFin is what we in the regulatory space call it. And they have a great website. If I were a builder, I would go there. There's a website, if you just put in your search engine, Google SEC CorpFin, their website will come up and it'll say Corporation of Finance SEC. And if you get on that page, on the lower left-hand side, it says crypto assets. And then every single one of their recent guidances, and there are a lot, are there, right? Proof of work, what they think about proof of stake, how that is or isn't part of a securities analysis. These are, they've been incredibly active, and these are really helpful guidances. If I were a builder and I wanted sort of a quick sorting out of what is important at the federal level and what kind of guidance is coming out, I would go there. The third thing, I guess I said two, but the third thing is, a lot of legislation conversations are happening at Congress. You got to keep an eye on that. But honestly, if you don't want to wait, you're building right now, I would go to that page. So those are the two probably tips that I would give to a builder right now.
They don't even need to go to AI. They can just go straight to that.
I would go there. I would not use the AI overview. I would go right there and read from the horse's mouth.
Great. Now, in talking in the past, you've talked about how certainty is king in financial markets. So how much more certainty do we have now than we did in previous years? And do you feel like things are getting more certain, or we're in for a similarly rough road until we have completely rock solid, concrete certainty from legislation and regulation standpoint?
So I think that's a really tough question. It's a tough question because there are a lot of things that one could say about that. I think that certainty for institutionals really, really important. Institutional big organizations with a lot of transactions, they'll pay a premium for certainty. So it is really critical. But if you think about your own lives and as builders, a certain amount of certainty from the regulatory side is also, you feel it, right? It's really important because then you don't know which way you can go and which way you can't go. So I think there's a lot more maturation both on the regulatory side and in the eco space. So I think as both areas mature, I think there is more certainty. The eco space has a sense of what's happening better than they did before. They have a better sense of how regulation plays into it, and the regulators have a better sense of what the impact of the technology can be in markets and in other areas. So I think there is more certainty through the maturation. And I guess that's soft power in the sense that it's not written down. But the thing to remember about laws and the way we work as a society is that a lot of the stuff we do is not written down, and there's still certainty. Okay, so I think that's the idea, that certainty comes from both the statutory and regulatory words that are written and the maturation of the industry and the regulators. It's more complicated, and I think it actually has to have that side to it. I like to give examples, so I'll give you an example. When we have a stoplight or a stop sign in the U.S. generally, and I'm saying generally because I know out there you guys are running them just like others, but like generally we stop. Even if there's nobody there, we are like, okay, well, we need to stop. But I've been in other jurisdictions where a stop sign is more like guidance. People don't stop, right? They cross the lane, they drive all over the place. So they have the same rule, but the culture and the way the evolution of that rule is implicated and implemented is different. So again, I think that we have more certainty both because a maturation of the ecospace, maturation of the regulators regarding the technology, and because we're about to get a market restructure bill that will write a bunch of this down. I have heard from people in the ecospace that they don't want rules. They want the SEC to write every single thing down in the statute. I'm going to suggest to you that that is a bad idea, and not only is it a bad idea for the regulators, you actually don't want that either. You want, and people, I know they struggle with this, but you want some judgment and some flexibility in how things are interpreted to reflect, like I said, the maturation and the evolution of the space. So I would say the short answer is more certainty. The longer answer is that's not just because of the rules and the statutes, but it's because of the growing understanding in society overall. This is a long answer, sorry. Okay, yeah.
No, that was a great answer, and that's really important. So I'll give you a little easier question this time. So what did you think of the onboarding experience for ETHDenver this year through Unicorn?
Good, so easy, just push a button. I think that makes it great for people in the space who are busy, and it also makes it great for people who aren't in the space, who are like overwhelmed by technology. So I thought it was great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Now, we're seeing more like firms like JP Morgan launching tokenized platforms. I guess in some countries it's not allowed, like the UK, but do you see that as a validation of the technology, or does it risk sort of flipping the financial systems out on their head?
I think this goes back to your first question of how does it impact the way I see regulation and the development of the ecosystem and financial systems with the overlay of having been the first general counsel for Ethereum at its Genesis block. And the answer to this question is that I have since the beginning, after I had the really incredible privilege of having Vitalik Buterin actually explain to me what the Ethereum blockchain does, I thought about it. First, he explained it, and I was like, I don't get it. And I slept on it, and I thought about it, and I thought, this is really pivotal. It's going to be really important in so many ways. And so the answer to that is not a validation, but that I think I could already, in my view, see how important and how integral this kind of smart contracts and the blockchain would be to so many aspects of how we transact and do things in society going forward. Like, I could just see. So I don't think that I'd need validation, because there're just going to be so many use cases, and that's just going to be one of a significant one when it plays out. I think that Commissioner Peirce and Commissioner Atkins have talked about on this stage about a plan that's going to be imminent, I guess, to tokenize securities. That these use cases are going to be abundant, and I don't think it's really a validation for me in the sense that I just really could see that there would be so many use cases, and I think that this would be a significant one. The NYSE, I think last month, said that they are going to allow custody on the blockchain. All of these use cases are really big deal in how society functions, and I think something in the early days that I thought would happen. Not exactly, I'm not a prognosticator, but I knew it was going to be, I knew there were a lot of use cases that could leverage the efficiencies of the blockchain. I'm happy to see it. I think security, once again, cybersecurity will be top of mind for those kind of things, though.
Great. Well, if you could give one piece of advice to the founders and builders that are here, launching a project in the next 12 months in blockchain, from your seat, from where you sit in the security side, what advice would you give them?
Well, let's say it's not just for financial, it's for any kind of builder. I think the first thing is to make sure whatever you're building is something that is actually something people want to use. Like, I know that's really obvious, but make sure it's something people really want to use. And then I would just say, go forth, innovate, make lots of money, and do it legally. That would be my advice. So that, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You've been coming to ETHDenver every year since 21 or 20?
21, I think.
21. Right?
Pandemic.
Because of the pandemic,
yeah.
right? And we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you and your wisdom, and I feel great that you're here watching over the state that we all live in.
Thank you very much, and to all the visitors, welcome to Denver. Have a great time.